Good morning and welcome to another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. This is Robert Phoenix broadcasting to you live and direct from Austin, Texas. It's 9:05 here in the capital city of Music City, or is Texas a music state? A lot of musicians from Texas. You know, Don Henley is from Texas. Don Henley went from Texas to Southern California, where he hooked up with Glenn Frey and formed the Eagles. So a lot of musicians are from Texas. Probably the most infamous the most famous, of course, here are, I think it's probably held down by two people, one living and one not living. One living is Willie Nelson, and the not living is Stevie Ray Vaughan. These are the two, I think, kind of archetypal sons of Austin, Texas music in a lot of ways, and there's plenty of great musicians. But there's another guy that is still living, lives here in Austin. His name is Rocky Erickson, and he was part of a group called the 13th Floor Elevator. And Rocky was considered one of the fathers of psychotic rock and roll, blend of psychedelic music and rock music and horror themes. That was Rocky Erickson. Hey, what's happening? He's still around. What's happening out there? We are now living in a post-Irma world. We're going to talk a little bit about 9/11 today. I spent a lot of time talking about it last night on my show, on my live stream. So you can, if you're interested, I'll post that. The live stream is actually up on YouTube. It's up on Facebook, and it will be up on my website after today's show. So if you want to get into a more in-depth unfolding of 9/11 and the aftermath, so to speak, you can go check that out. I'll talk about it a little bit today, since today is the day. Today's the day. Everybody remembers where they were. It's just like Kennedy. Everybody knows where they were on 9/11. At that time, I had a girlfriend that I probably shouldn't have been with. You know, it's like the party that you stay at way too long, and you wake up in the morning and the sun has come through, and you get to see all the litter and trash that's hanging out there. Anyway, a nice person, but wasn't. I should have. I don't know. Let's just leave it at that. But anyway, I was with her, and the night before 9/11 happens, we got into this fight. It was not a fun fight. We just went to bed angry, and got up the next day, went to Starbucks, and all of a sudden, the shit was hitting the fan. I was like, oh boy, here we go. And I looked at her. And I said, we're fucked. We're fucked. And the reason why I said that had nothing to do with the fact that, all of a sudden, these heathen terrorists were going to invade our country. But I knew that they would use 9/11 as a pretext for a lot of different things. And I was so alone at that time. Everybody else was in this deeply punch-drunk trance. I'll never forget going to a party about 3 weeks after that. It was one of the most desultory parties I've ever been to. Everybody was so down. So down. And I'm like, fuck, don't you people, they should have been pissed off. What they should have been. You know, and I knew that these guys did not do they didn't do the gig. They didn't do the job. You know, you had to kind of go back and untangle everything. And it's like, okay, really? Now these guys have had roughly 2 lessons of flying personal planes down in Florida, because they had to leave some kind of a visible trail that these dudes, who were probably either Mossad or working with the CIA, had to come in, get a couple of lessons. Mohammed Atta was not he was known as a guy that went to strip clubs and he drank. I mean, these are anything but Islamic hardcore terrorists. These were not Salafists. These were not Wahhabists. These weren't even the guys whose pictures they posted, which came out, you know, not too long after the fact, that most of these guys were still alive and they were living in other parts of the world. And these were just images they had on file. Now, here you go. You ready for this? They do that on purpose. They do that. Of course, these people are smart. They're not always, you know, every now and then they slip up because maybe they have to rush one of their events. But they could have found pictures. They could have created pictures. They could have created composites. These are, you know, very sophisticated photo editing programs at their disposal. They could have created composites of people that would not have been traceable. That would not have been that hard. You spend an extra 25 hours or 30 hours on those images and they don't pop up as people that are still alive. Okay? Maybe you leave a couple in there just so you can grab them and pull them down to Guantanamo, but the rest don't have to be those people. They do it on purpose because they want to show you. They want to rub it in your face. Like, hey, look what we're doing. See, these guys are still alive and you're still buying it. See, that's how it works. But I was on an island, man. I was totally on an island back then. People should have been pissed off, not sad. But it traumatized the American public. And for a decent amount of time, of course, sympathies went out to America. Boy, now we were the martyr. We were the martyr country, the martyr culture. And the rest of the world was like, oh man, those poor bastards. For about 6 months, the world felt sorry for us. But then George Bush started opening his mouth. Oh. To this day, I still want to punch him. I want to punch that little, you know what I mean? I mean, come on. You're either with us or against us. Go shopping. You know, and just knowing that this little creep knew exactly what happened. Or at least one of his doubles or clones did. You know what I'm saying? He knew exactly what happened. He knew where the bodies were buried and all these arrogant assholes. This is what really pissed me off, is watching people like Dick Cheney and Don Rumsfeld and then all the neocons, Paul Wolfowitz, John Bolton, just getting their raging war hard on. And then watching the documentaries come out, not long after the fact, where the United States eventually goes and invades Iraq as a result of 9/11. It took them a while, right? So the invasion of Iraq took place when, in 2003? I remember being on a beach in Southern California at that time. I was so angry. I had to calm down. So it took us about 2 years to get into Iraq. Of course, we did not waste time, and we quickly went into Afghanistan as quickly as we could. But then it was target Iraq. And you had all these fools selling the war to Iraq. And we all know Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with the whole thing. Nothing at all. But oh, there's yellow cake. Oh, there's rods. Yellow cake and rods from Niger. And then you have Don Rumsfeld. Well, we know that they have the weapons of mass destruction somewhere up in the north-west east or the north-southwest of Kandahar. You know, I mean, it's like he couldn't even name the right location. Of course, there were no weapons of mass destruction. And then Bush joking that the weapons of mass destruction. Has anybody seen those weapons of mass destruction? I think they're under my bed. It's like, are you kidding me? We were made fools by the people who governed us and the people who set up the entire event. And here we were walking around, doing our best to reclaim our American pride. Oh, nobody had ever done that to us. That was demoralizing. And then, of course, we have the fake patriotism. And it's like, it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be patriotic. You go out and you get the flags. Like, we're not going to let them diminish our Americanism. No, that's not going to happen at all. We're going to buy flags. If you own stock in flag companies prior to 9/11, you did well. Whoever those flag companies are. Then the fake patriotism comes out. I was like, It's like, where was this like 10 years ago? When we didn't have to respond to another fake event. You know what I'm saying? So this is the legacy of 9/11 just lingers on and on and on and on, all the way to when they knocked out, or supposedly knocked out, Osama bin Laden, which is a joke, total joke. I was reading a post about. Actually, I was listening to something. I wasn't reading. I was listening to something about how Navy SEAL Team 6, the same elite group who took out Osama bin Laden, have been training in a very disciplined and dedicated way, assiduously training, so that if needed, they can go in and take out Kim Jong-un. So that's a really interesting piece, because first of all, legitimizes the death of Osama bin Laden. Yeah, that guy was not Osama bin Laden. Sorry, you think Osama bin Laden would be living in some shithole? And do you think he'd be so unguarded that these guys could just come in? Could you imagine the guy that was living there? Watching some soccer match or something on his TV, smoking out of his hookah. Who knows what the guy was doing? All of a sudden, it's like, oh man! Next thing you know, the place is rubble. Oh, and we're gonna bury him at sea. We're not gonna bring the body back. No. We're not gonna do any forensics at all. We're not gonna open his brain and search into the organic cavity of evil. No, we're going to bury him at sea because we don't want any controversy. Isn't that ridiculous? It's you know what it was like? It's just like when they have a false flag and the shooter gets killed. And you never get to cross-examine or talk to the shooter. Just, it's perfect. Perfect. So a bunch of bullshit. Another load of bullshit. And this is 9/11. And this day we celebrate bullshit. Here's another heaping teaspoon of bullshit, America, which you swallow every day gleefully. Please give me some more. Please give me some more bullshit. It might be ending, though. Maybe this is a good time to transition to Irma before my cynicism and bile overtakes this show and I can never get it back again. I was watching a live feed last night. I talked about this on the live stream. I was watching this live feed, and it was it was a YouTube channel that was running CNN, and it was Anderson Cooper trying for all, he was doing his very best to look like he was in the storm of the century. Oh my God. His Anderson Cooper perfect hair was wet. And he looked like a bedraggled and soaked little rat in the rain. He's dialoguing with was it Don Lemon back in the studio? Do you think Anderson Cooper and Don Lemon have a thing for each other? I wonder. Anyway, there he is. And he looked ridiculous, man. Just so ridiculous. And so it's this third-party YouTube channel, and there's the comments that are scrolling very, very quickly. They do this on the live streams, not on my show. My show, the comments really happen at a very, very relaxed, easy sort of pace. But on the live streams that are frequented by a lot of people, it's like machine gun fire. And every fifth person had something to say other than the word fake. Fake news, fake hair, fake storm, fake bush, fake rubbish, fake rubble, fake wind, fake tears, fake news. I mean, it was just and these were all these different people. It was a litany of fake. And every, maybe, like I said, fifth or sixth person might have a non-fake comment, but almost as equally as snarky. Okay. So there is the potential that people are waking up. I mean, it is happening. People are waking up. They're waking up through a rejection of traditional news sources and traditional authority, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's long overdue. Long overdue. But something must supplant that. I wouldn't call it cynicism. I think a healthy cynicism is good. But if we could somehow supplant the fake with something that is real, or at least begins to illuminate the truth, that would be wonderful. That would be great. Maybe in all due time. If this is the Saturn and Sag kids, it should be very interesting, to say the least. So Irma was, you know what Irma was? Irma was a disaster. But it wasn't a disaster for many people. Although if you're in the Caribbean, clearly it was a disaster. It was, you had, Category 4 class winds, reaching up to 5, destroying islands. So if you're in the Caribbean, that was a big deal, that storm. But by the time it got to Florida, it had dissipated. It was down to a class 3, maybe even a class 2, and there was a lot of sound and fury, ultimately, over very little. And again, that's not to diminish or gloss over what happened to people in the Caribbean. Many of whom lost their homes. I mean, it's a big deal. There was rampant looting after that. I'm going to read a story from Yoichi Shimatsu, who's a very good journalist, by the way, and it's a brief story I'll talk about. It's called Irma La Douche, which is a takeoff on Irma La Douce, right? Irma La Douche, because the storm Irma did not come through for the weather Nazis. Irma was, unfortunately, a real letdown. It didn't bring the kind of damage, that big Category 5 damage, that wiping out southern Florida forever kind of damage. We're all sitting here by the seat of our pants, but I will say this, and I'm going to get to Yoichi's story in a minute here, and also a very interesting development too around where that storm hit. Okay, but we're all sitting around waiting for this disaster to really take landfall. Alex Jones needs to really chill a little bit, I think, because he was dedicating, he's in the news business now. Alex Jones, if you haven't noticed it, he's in the news business. He's not in the waking up information business. He's in the news business. He's doing the same things that CNN are doing. So he was hyping that storm, and he was staying on air as much as possible, as long as possible. He had Leanne Tweeden down in Florida crying because of the damage the storm might do to her grandmother, who's living there and just had an operation, and she's there to help out. I mean, So, of course, Alex Jones has a ton of survival products and water filters and all the things that you need to have during a storm. And I guarantee you, if you watch his show today, he'd be talking about said supplies. You don't want to get caught. You don't want this to happen. And he's right. I mean, you don't. You want to have that stuff taken care of. But his coverage of Irma was a little shameless. Just saying. Just saying. But on the other side of the equation, now we don't know what our efforts have brought into this world, but we did make how do we say this? We did set an energetic and metaphysical intention about either moving the storm or dissipating it. And we're not alone. We are not alone. There are other people who are doing metaphysical work around dissipating Irma. And I think, you know what? Let's just take credit for it, all right? Because other people take credit for things that have nothing to do with whatever it is that they set out to do. It just sometimes they stumble upon the result, or sometimes they stumble upon the outcome, right? And then they take credit for it. So let's just take credit for the great work that we did with Irma. Thank you. You guys rocked. You dissipated that storm. You brought it down. And guess what else happened? It went right over Necker Island, Richard Branson's island. How about that? Have you seen the pictures? All right. Let me read the Shimatsu piece, because I think it's worth reading. Just have to find it here again. Give me one moment. There we go. This is 9/11, Yoichi Shimatsu. I don't know if he has a website, but he writes for Jeff Rense. He's a good writer, and he's a very good researcher. So this is what he has to say. The biggest city mauled by the huffing and puffing about Hurricane Irma is Bonn, Germany, which will host the UN COP23 climate change conference starting November 6. Despite the best effort of major media to exaggerate the tropical storm as the greatest hurricane ever, Irma landed on Florida's shore like a whimpering wet rat. Nowhere in the same league of the titanic storms of the distant past. Even the not so distant past, Harvey was a pretty bad deal, I have to say. A Caribbean or Atlantic hurricane is neither record-setting nor even notable unless it maintains Category 5 force after initial landfall on the U.S. mainland. Otherwise, short of that mark, a storm like Irma reveals a lack of endurance and therefore is not a contender for the top 10 list. It's like the Daytona 500. If your race car sputters to a crawl on the 200th and last lap, then it's not winning the trophy or the aura of NASCAR glory, no matter how much your rowdy fans may cheer. Due to the happy but unfulfilled ending, this much-touted hurricane has earned the nickname from online skeptics of Irma la douche. To follow on the politically incorrect but spot-on analogy, the douchebags were major media channels like BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, Sky, and the rest that pushed the climate change propaganda. However much those aging media prostitutes hailed the many wonders of Irma, the mild dousing turned out to be the biggest diversion and the greatest letdown since the invention of silicone implants. That's a great line. Sad to say, a lot of evacuating, John, Dick, and Harry's fell for that claptrap, 2 words intended, as in the risk from the title character in the 1963 comedy film Irma la douce. Climate change theory is a socially transmitted disease, and it's high time for the public to be aware of the come-ons from the Global Warming Propaganda Bureau. Now, only after Tampa is being spared pummeling, do the sad tales from those poor little Caribbean resort islands start to leak out. Okay, pay attention to this. This is a really important detail. Thousands of American tourists trapped inside flooded hotels of shabby construction were robbed at machete point by roving gangs of local thugs. Older ladies had this under their purses, or their heads would have been chopped off like coconuts. St. Martin is part of the EU, being a territory of France and Holland, which are much more worried about perpetuating the charade of climate change and the benefits of open immigration than the basic rights of their paying holiday customers who had to be evacuated aboard U.S. ships. So on board are more unsatisfied customers fleeced by Irma la douche, who won't be giving a refund for services not rendered at St. Martin. The UK news media have been moaning nonstop over the damage to the mansions of British lords and shady tycoons on their former slave plantation islets, which are no paradise for the locals. Helicopter video image shows wreckage strewn like bowling pins. A closer examination reveals that much of the debris is from outdoor storage facilities, which discloses just how flim-flam those expatriate businessmen really are. In Hurricane Alley, one should be expected to pay expense of erecting bunker-like warehouses, even without the apparently non-existing building codes. In stark contrast, older colonial buildings were undamaged because their roof timbers were strongly anchored with bolts into iron beams, and their small windows were properly shuttered. What Sweet Irma can teach those neo-colonials is the many benefits of the French Louvre. Not the museum, but the wooden storm shutters. On a reporting assignment in the French capital, I remember waking up to an explosion against the walls. In the darkness, I went to the window and timidly looked through the Louvre flaps to see a glorious dawn. So I unhooked the louvers and threw them open to announce the day with a clap. A pleasure more satisfying and a lot safer than an hour with Irma. So he goes on and he talks about the wonders of the shutter, which I'll skip. It's a good piece, but you get the point, right? Okay. So it says here, Irma was a disaster of junk architecture, lack of building codes, and luxurious amenities inappropriate to tropical conditions. Instead, the major media put the entire blame on a climate change theory, and global warming, even though they have yet to show a single yacht harbor anywhere in the world being displaced by rising seas. The contrary is happening. Landfill is shrinking the marine environment. So one of the other places that was hit by Irma was, guess what? Necker Island. Necker Island is where, of course, Richard Branson has his wonderful, exclusive, expensive island resort. Oh, this is rich. Okay, let me read this here. Okay, so this is from RT. It says, Richard Branson's private island completely devastated by Hurricane Irma. Oh, boo-hoo. Shall we celebrate with a little bit of Schadenfreude? I know. He's a human. I know. Even the wealthiest have to go through tragedy every now and then and realize that their mortal powers are no match for something far beyond their pay grade. So he shared private videos and photos of his private island, Necker, which was severely damaged when Hurricane Irma hurtled through the Caribbean over the weekend. The British billionaire took refuge in a wine cellar as the Category 5 storm lashed the 30-hectare, 74 acres island. So he was down in his wine bunker, and the pictures are pretty startling. I mean, there's a lot of damage. The beautiful, this is where Obama was recently. I mean, this is like a pretty spectacular place. Doesn't look that spectacular now. No. Necker Island. So this is what is Necker damage huge. But BVI, hashtag Irma, story is not about Necker. It's about thousands of people who've lost homes and livelihoods. At Virgin Unite, coordinating aid to local BVI families and communities affected by Hurricane Irma. Please donate to help. Virgin.in/OXN. Do you really want to donate to that? I mean, Richard Branson could take care of that island 3 times over with his money. Let's be clear about that. Do you really want to donate to Richard Branson's fund? Let Richard Branson clean up the island. You know, if that's the case, and British Virgin Islands, right? So it's the BVI. Let him go in there. Let him go. You know, would it be untowards? Would Richard Branson be capable of taking that money and rebuilding his own island? Is that possible? I think we got to be. I mean, we're doling out all this donation money, And it's a good thing to do if it gets into the right hands. If it gets into the... But we never know what happens. I mean, look at what happened with Haiti in the earthquake. I mean, literally hundreds of thousands of people responded. And sorry to say, but it's still a shithole. You know, none of the things that they promised to do really took root. They could have used that money to rebuild Haiti and create a wonderful infrastructure, but instead the money was squandered and it became kind of a network for child trafficking in the aftermath of the earthquake. I mean, watch what happened with the Clinton Foundation, which, by the way, the Clinton Foundation is under fire. And they're losing people. They had to let go of 22 people because donations to the Clinton Foundation are starting to dry up. People are realizing that it is nothing more than a money laundering scheme. That's what it is. It's a money laundering front. So they had to lay off 22 people. Well, we did our job. Let's just take credit for it. Well done. Well done. We didn't want anybody to get hurt. So, you know, we certainly were very clear about our intention. That whatever kind of work we were doing with that storm, it was not going to affect and impact somebody at a person. We wanted no harm, or as little harm as possible. And I think we accomplished our goal. We hit our target. Well done. And let's be the psychic first responders from here on out. If we see another disaster looming on the horizon, let's gather our energies and do the same thing, which is to do our best to influence the event for the highest good possible without any harm at all. Wishing no harm is the key. Trust me on this. And as far as 9/11 goes, and what you do with the rest of the day, for those of you who are red-pilled and know to the best of your ability those guys that they plastered up on your TV screen just days after the event, had absolutely nothing to do with the event except for perhaps staging a few flight visits and establishing a record. What you can do this day is to celebrate this day. And to not be pissed off and to not walk around sullen and wondering when the rest of the world is going to figure it out. No, you celebrate this day because you're awake. Celebrate your conscious awareness. Celebrate your being switched on. Celebrate your high beams. Appreciate it, even though it may not be appreciated by your inner circle. Appreciate it. Love it. And turn them on even higher. That's the best thing that we can do today, to honor the birth of the truth and the birth of the light, which took place on this day, 33 BC. Yes, that's right. So by honoring the truth and the light within us, the awakened part of us, or the awakened self, we pay homage and respect to the great awakener, the great beacon of truth, the great beacon of love, and the great beacon of light on this planet. All right, let's get on out of here. We'll see you back here tomorrow, 24 hours from today. Use your head to discern what's real, and your heart to open as possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. You've been listening to the 15 Minutes of Flame version of 9/11. I'll see you all tomorrow.